All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of OCA Youth Podcasting. This is going to be the last episode of our summer. We're going to be talking about, culture, community centers, and bonding with your family. So, of course, before we begin, let's all introduce ourselves with our name, the grade we're entering next year, and our favorite holiday. So, Sid.
My name's Sid. I'm a junior. My favorite holiday is Diwali.
I'm Max. I'm a junior, and my favorite holiday is Christmas.
I'm James. I'm a senior, and my favorite holiday is Christmas as well.
I'm Ryan. I'm a rising junior, and my favorite holiday is Lunar New Year.
I'm Stefan. I'm a rising junior, and my favorite holiday is Christmas.
I'm Govind. I'm a rising sophomore, and my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving.
All right, so we're going to get into it and mostly just talk about cultural and tradition stuff here. In your families, like, what are some ways that, you do cultural traditional things or play culturally traditional games?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind here is definitely mahjong for my family. Doesn't matter my dad or my mom's side, whether they're from Singapore or from Hong Kong originally, but I think that mahjong's a game that's been played throughout centuries, and it's definitely been a big part of my family roots. I know that my grandparents play it a lot, so whenever we have like a culturally significant like dinner, like Lunar New Year, or I guess you could say Christmas because we have hot pot as well, I feel like mahjong is definitely a big staple in what we do and just how I bond with my family and how my family kind of just connects itself a little bit closer as well.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. And I think, if you don't know what mahjong is, I've not played it before, but I've heard that it's similar to what people see as like gin rummy, except instead of using like a traditional deck of cards, you would use, tiles. It's like small sets of like tiles, and they all have different like suits and
Symbols,
numbers on them, symbols and whatnot. Mahjong is also something that my family does a lot. It's something that I've grown up playing. Right now, most commonly, whenever we go to my grandparents' house on like the weekends, on Sundays and stuff, we get together around the table, 4 people, we play mahjong, and we play for fun. We don't, there's no gambling happening. It's just a for fun thing.
Yeah.
I mean, for my family, there's also this game called Ludo. I don't know. You heard of it? Yeah, it's kind of like a game with kind of like you guys play Trouble or Sorry.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, except no fancy bopping machine and just rolling dice and going around. But that was mainly with like the younger generations of my family.
Mm-hmm.
I know I played a lot of Carom with my uncle specifically, and my family's home in Bangalore.
With the games I've grown up in a Korean household, so a pretty big game that my parents have been playing and then that they played in their childhood was a game called Ghost Stop. It's essentially like a bunch of cards, kind of like a regular formal deck of cards, except those symbols on it instead of numbers, and you have to kind of match these symbols. And it's also a gambling game, but we normally don't play with real money, or we don't play with money at all. And it's just, I mean, we play it pretty much every holiday, every like birthday, every day where there's like a special event. And we even sometimes played it, especially in the past, just like on regular days, where we have like family nights, just hanging out, relaxing, and always just bonding together.
Yeah, and I think a big place where a lot of these games, like, for us, right, it's introduced in our families and just growing up. But I think when it's enjoyed not only by our families, but by, maybe the broader A and HPI community as a whole, a lot of the times I think these happen in community centers. And by community centers, I mean stuff like, I went to Chinese school growing up, church is a community center, stuff like, school fairs and activity clubs. Those all serve as community centers where, stuff like culture and these games can get showcased. So, what are some of y'all's experiences with community centers and with being in these sorts of places?
For me, I'm a Christian, so I go to church with my family, and I mean in church there's lots of things that we do together, like as a youth group, especially like predominantly we go on retreats, which is basically all about bonding time and like kind of getting closer to our religion. And so it's like in those moments it's a prime time for us to bond together, to play games, to get to really know each other, and it's a really opening and nice experience when you're able to kind of just be with people that you're comfortable with, and with people that respect you and love you.
Yeah, Steph and I totally and 100% agree with that. I think for mahjong, not a lot of people I think around my neighborhood like to play mahjong or know how to play mahjong. Just I think it's kind of been exclusive to like Asian American families in some way. So I think community centers for me is just a place where I can play with different people, not just my family or my mom or my dad. I think that community centers definitely they had a mahjong game and it was a huge like series of mahjong, and I got to play with different people and I get to know different people regardless of age. And I wouldn't say trash talk them, but I was like kind of boasting in a way that was fun and in a friendly manner. But I definitely think that community service in terms of, seeing people that you want to get introduced to and seeing that you like those people and just like bonding with different people besides your family and people that respect you. I definitely think that community centers definitely play a role in that.
And our school is especially diverse, at least the school we all go to, except for you. But in our school, you as well. But our school is especially diverse, but there are still clubs and kind of activities where you tend to kind of gravitate towards people of similar backgrounds. And I know there's a club in our school, the cricket club, which is run by some of our friends, but there it's just kind of nice because cricket is a sport that's especially big in India. It's kind of nice to see other people from similar cultures playing the sport and trying to play with them as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest sort of idea of a community center for me growing up was Chinese school, right? It was a Sunday Chinese school. You had to wake up at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. every Sunday, go to Chinese school, usually take a class, just learning all the characters, learning how to speak, and then you might have another class that's like a cultural class. Like I did like origami one, stuff like computer art, stuff like that. If I'm being totally honest, I quit Chinese school after COVID, and I did not like Chinese school. My parents basically had to force me to go after the 4th grade, and I just did not like the classes, like the language learning classes. I was not a fan. By the way, the teacher's biggest way a lot of the times of getting you to stay in the class was telling like a little 2nd grader that you'll regret it when you're older if you don't take this class. Now, I'm a 2nd grader, man. I don't think I comprehend major regret yet. But Chinese school, nonetheless, I think is a very important part of community in my life growing up, because it was a space where you could spend time with other Chinese people and other, especially young Chinese people. You're all in an environment where you're encouraged to speak your family's native tongue and to speak the language that you're told to speak in the household, basically. So that was a major bonding experience. And also there was a lot of events organized, and I know my brother really enjoyed it, like trips to China and stuff and whatnot, and just having big events like talent shows and stuff, like stuff that helps the community bond. I think it's really important to have stuff like that, even if I didn't enjoy the very study necessary classes, I guess.
Yeah.
One thing that brings to mind for me is when I was younger, especially my sister used to be part of like this India center where she would do dance lessons. And over there, like every 2 weeks or something, there was some event or something, and I would always tag along to them. I wasn't really that interested. I'd just kind of sit on the sides. But looking back on it, it was like that was a great way just to meet other people from similar backgrounds, kind of talk to people in my mother tongue, talk to people in a language that honestly I wouldn't be able to speak much if I was just in around our neighborhood. But that was one place where I got to not only speak my mother tongue, but also experience different parts of my culture that aren't as readily accessible to me in the United States compared to in India.
Yeah, Sid, I like when you brought up about the dance center. I think that if you were younger in elementary school, I think our elementary school would host these world festivals or these world fairs in the auditorium, and they would basically have a lot of presentations and posters about some different cultures. And I think that even karate and different activities from different cultures, they like to present there. And that just brought me back to my experience there, where not only where I would kind of share my culture with other people that necessarily they weren't familiar with my culture, but also I get to experience other cultures at the same time. And I just think that the adventurous kind of feeling you get walking into that auditorium kind of brought all of us together. All of my friends in 4th grade would go to these fairs. I'm sure you were once. You were there as well.
So nice that you guys had that, because we did not.
As you can tell, just our elementary school is a little bit, they like to do that, and I think that's great. But I wanted to point it back to that fair.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because it's the same school district, but
We did
not have that.
We have in 3rd grade the multicultural feast, right?
That was
Was that
But
for
that was
Ours was every year.
no, but that was kind of just you
It's
learned
more-
about a country that you were given.
Yeah.
But the extent of like our multicultural learning was one year they brought like powdered color like
Oh, I
Yeah.
remember that.
for
Yeah.
Holi they brought
Yeah.
a bunch of powders and said you can look at it but don't do anything.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Yeah, they brought at the fair. They brought dumplings for all of us to eat with chopsticks.
See that
Wow,
sounds
that's-
We had
wonderful.
that
It was
we
amazing,
had
right?
that
It was very
last year,
tasty.
right?
Yeah.
2 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
I remember,
Do you remember that?
Ollie brought in something.
Yeah. Like all like the different cultures.
In
brought
our high
food
school,
and
yeah,
stuff.
we've had like people brought in food and all.
Right,
There was
yeah.
one day
It
it
was
was
the world
No, but it was similar.
cultural fair or something like
I don't know
that.
if you're
Yeah.
there.
No, but I
It
just
was
want.
the year before I left, so.
No, but it was more like I also experienced that in my school as well. Like there was an English class where we needed to bring in a certain like dish or like food or snack. I brought in the ice cream, the fish.
Yeah.
It was a little bit melted, but I kept it in like a freezer.
Yeah.
And basically, I just brought it to show everyone, just saying like I grew up eating this. You guys should try it too.
Yeah.
And other people from different cultures, like European cultures or maybe other cultures as well, just like bring in their foods as well. So I definitely think that's a good place to find it.
One thing that I also just remembered this past like Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
one of our friends decided he wanted to have a potluck, so he just kind of
Oh,
got
yeah.
everyone to bring something to
that's-
school
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
lunch. It had like a table full of snacks and stuff,
Mhm.
and that was especially just cool, just experiencing other cultures and just
Yeah.
seeing what other people eat.
Yeah, I wanna backtrack on what you said earlier about like having that experience where you could only see like the paints, but they didn't let you do anything with it, and that was like the whole extent of your learning. Like a major thing is like when you're learning about cultures and different experiences, like it's a huge difference between like interacting, like being able to interact with them or just being told about them.
Yeah.
Because when you're just told about them, like it's really like you can't get a full understanding, in my opinion. And then when you actually get to have like the foods or play the games or like do something in the ways that
Yeah.
people in that culture would do it, like that's so much more of like an educational and I think in general just like a more entertaining experience.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually, sorry, Sid. Do you remember, Stefan and Sid, do you remember like sometime in elementary school, like parents or grandparents would come in and like present about their culture? Like,
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, they did that with our school as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
They did,
so
yeah.
like
no.
Okay. So, oh, you wanna go?
No.
Okay. All right. So, like, I remember a couple of times. It sort of rotated throughout some of the Chinese parents, but like my mom came in a few times.
Oh, I remember that.
Into our elementary school class. Maybe she'd bring some treats and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah,
Bring
yeah.
some traditional decorations, and then we just go on the smart board, and she basically says like, "What's Chinese New Year?" or like, "What's Lunar New Year?"
Yeah.
And then we talk about the race of the animals. And how the how like that sort of entire process and what each animal might mean, what the pig means, what the dragon means, what the dog means, all that stuff. And like it was just something
Yeah.
cool. At the end of the day, we get to learn about something.
Yeah, the funny thing is my mom did the exact same thing. I was freaking out in class. I had to get kicked out of class when I was in first grade because I was so happy that she was in my classroom. But yeah, I definitely think that after that, like we had snacks or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just
Yeah.
it was
A lot
just a
of
good
people brought food.
experience.
A lot of people brought
Yeah.
the food.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
This is the first time I had latkes.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, as much as we talk about these things, it's like a once in like 2 years thing that happens. And
Yeah.
as much as like looking back on it, it feels like, oh, we did have these things. Our actual like cultural education was not a thing. Like, I know about like Lunar New Year and all because I lived in Singapore, but from like the United States, nothing. There was never
Yep.
anything about Lunar New Year. The holy thing, it doesn't really explain anything about it. And I know a lot of these holidays also tie into religion, which makes it a little bit more hard for schools to teach about as much. But it's still important, I think, for people to have a grasp of what these holidays mean to other cultures, what they mean to different people, even different people in our own communities.
Yeah, take
Right.
the volley for example. Sorry, James.
No,
sorry.
So like while you guys have had like all these experiences in your schools and everything, in where I grew up, which is just Queens, it's not that far from here, but it's like I didn't really have any of this. At best, it was like when it was like some kind of cultural holiday, they'd mention it in a class or something, but they wouldn't go super in depth, and there wouldn't be any people coming in, or like my schools also wouldn't host any like world food, I don't know, festivals, whatever you guys had. So like I personally didn't get like a super great cultural education in like elementary, middle school, but from Chinese school, as we were talking about earlier, like I feel like it's very important because it allows like the newer generations to connect and like learn about the cultures or like traditions that they might not be taught very well in like classes today. So
yeah, sorry. So that's what I was saying. So I don't know for you guys. I think you mentioned the other day that like this year Diwali is gonna be taken off, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's
It's a near
it's a great
public
step, like
Yeah.
in the right direction. Because I remember when I was young, I would see there's all these cultural holidays off, and then Diwali we still had school, and then like the teacher would mention, "Oh, Happy Diwali, Govind! Happy Diwali, Govind!" And then nobody would actually know what it was. And I always thought it was like so unfortunate that people didn't understand our culture, and they didn't understand our holidays. They didn't know what it was because there wasn't a day off about it, which is quite a shame. But like I think now that like it's being treated as a holiday, I think that's a step in the right direction for people being educated about it.
And but on the flip side, also we need to kind of as a community figure out a way to recognize all cultures and all cultures' holidays. Because it's not feasible to give a holiday, like an actual school break for all. But we need to try and figure out a way, like all of us can like actually learn about these cultures. You don't just have a holiday for it. Well, a holiday is nice. It allows us to actually partake in whatever cultural celebration, whatever religious event you need that actually occurs on that day. But it doesn't actually teach people that are not from your culture about it. It's just another day off at the end of the day for most people, except for the few that actually celebrate it. So I think it's especially important that we acknowledge what that cultural celebration came from, how it arose.
I think just one sort of step in that right direction. Again, I think that for most people, like you can't force them to learn something, and then at the same time, we want to have more cultures being taught, and we want more people to be aware of these different holidays and people's unique cultures. But again, you also have like a limited space in classes and what people are taking and what they can teach. I think part of particularly what schools can do to remedy this, especially schools adopting these holidays as both holidays and you have the day off. I think part of that can just be something as simple as like when you email, guys, congrats, you have the day off. You maybe email like an extra thing for anybody who wants to read it. What are the origins of this holiday? Why was it started? And then people will have the option like right in front of them there. If they want to learn more about it, they can learn more about it. And it's right there, and it's something that, if people in the community want to work on together, something they want to make, I think that could be, a pretty good option. With that being said, we mentioned before sort of the role our parents play in discussing these cultures and, helping us learn and whatnot. And I think what's really important is, aside from what traditional games and what traditional stuff we do in our family, our families are very important for our culture, for our mental health, for our well-being, for our lives in general. What do you do to bond with your family, traditional or non-traditional games or activities?
I mean, one thing for me, especially with like the older generations of my family, it's nice just to sit down and watch a movie, usually in Tamil, the language that I speak, or Hindi. And it's just nice to all sit down, watch a movie, go to a theater. It's always a fun experience. Just all of us, however many members of my extended family are there, just going out, doing just that allows us to be closer and actually do something together despite some difficulties communicating due to like language barriers or something like that.
Great time for bonding, in my opinion, with family is like during dinner when you're all like sat down at a table, and then like you can exchange conversations properly with like your like grandparents, like your parents in like your native language. It's also a time to just like properly take the time and like converse with like your grandparents that you might not like often speak to at other times during the day.
Yeah, I think that for me, just like physical activity with my family, especially going out on, I guess, weekends, they definitely help in terms of bonding. I just think that I would give an example of bowling. My brother just loves to bowl, and he likes using the little stand thing. I don't know, you just place a bowling ball and it just rolls in and just gets a strike every single time, kind of in that way. But I definitely think that just for my brother especially, I think just doing stuff that my brother likes and seeing him kind of get enjoyment out of it, I definitely think that that's a thing that helps us kind of bond together, knowing that we kind of give him the opportunity to do what he likes. I think that definitely bonds our family. I don't know if it's you guys, but like having your sibling enjoy something that you kind of provide for them or give them a chance to do is kind of what makes us more connected.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I have 3 siblings.
Okay.
Including myself. And like Sorry, my bad. I have
Yeah.
2 siblings. I have
Two siblings and yourself.
three of yeah. There's 3 of us. Okay. And I feel like we do like a lot of things as a family as a whole, but what I found to be very like valuable to me is like the individual things I do with my family. So like with my middle brother, we do like a lot of music stuff together. I'm closest with him, but like we do a lot of things together. With my oldest brother, we'll watch TV together. With my dad, he plays golf. I play a lot of golf. We play golf together. With my mom, I garden with her. We spend a lot of time together as well. So I think just like those, like doing those individual things to like on a personal level, I think it bonds those individuals like together, and then like on like the weekend, like watching a movie together, going out for dinner, eating dinner together, obviously, those bring the family together.
Going back to what Ryan was saying, something like in terms of siblings and how what your siblings do kind of turns into somewhat a way where you can all bond as a family. For me, my sister does dance, as I mentioned earlier, and I remember she used to have these performances, and it was always like, I didn't get a choice whether I could go or not. It was, you have to go, and as much as I despised it and having to like go spend half a day at some event that I wasn't really interested in, it gave me the opportunity to do something with my family, do something with, now my sister's going off to college, so how many times is that ever going to happen again for the rest of our lives? And it's just nice that we had those experiences when we were younger.
Yes, because like when you look back on those memories, like when you're missing your siblings, because both my siblings are in college, and I remember like, same with you, I'm sure you remember like you probably got dragged out to the concerts, and like I remember when I was young, I hated going because they were so long and they went so late. But then when I was missing them, I just have like memories of like, oh, my oldest brother Tig singing on stage, everybody clapping because it was so beautiful. My middle brother playing the trumpet, having a solo was beautiful, clapping. And like I just had memories of that, and I'm like, oh, I don't even miss them so much anymore because I have these memories.
Yeah.
I think that'll be valuable to you. So.
Yeah, I definitely think that all these like games and stuff, like spending time with your family, especially just on a like a sibling level as well, I definitely think that's very important. But I also want to point out that doing like it sounds kind of like, again, not necessarily like a bonding moment, but actually like doing work with your family or like getting stuff done. I definitely think that, like for example, me and my mom, we cooked together, and we had a hot pot, or we didn't have a hot pot. We did have a hot pot, and we had to prepare like there's an hour, and we need to prepare all these vegetables, and it was a pretty daunting task, right? I mean, like what, 10 people are coming over, and we need to prepare food, and we didn't do it because we procrastinated big time. So, but I definitely think that at the end of the day, when we finished chopping those vegetables, we had a sense of relief, and we kind of got something done, and I definitely think that's a very, very rewarding feeling, and that kind of made me closer to my mom as well. I mean, my dad also jumped in while my brother was just doing whatever on the sideline watching us, but I definitely think that getting work done and just getting and feeling accomplished about something definitely kind of helped me bond with my family a little bit more.
Actually, Ryan. Oh, sorry. You actually, going like with the cooking thing, I think one of the most valuable experiences in my life were like those exact scenes with like my mom and I cooking, and then everybody else just in the room, just there. Yeah. It's just like a very like. I got 1 hour, 15 guests are coming. Lock it.
I caught myself. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
By accident.
Yeah, but like I feel like those scenes where like everybody's in the room together, just doing their own thing, is like very heartwarming.
Yeah.
I also feel like moments when there was like a parent or just even like older sibling kind of like teaching other siblings or younger people in the family how to do things. Like for me, my dad really enjoys playing golf, right? And he also watches like a lot of videos on like golf form and techniques and stuff. So like like very often.
Yeah, we should play.
Yeah, no, for real. Like very often.
We got 3.
Run it up.
Like very often, like during Saturdays or Sundays, my dad, along with me, sometimes my brother and my mom, would go to like a golf course or just like a hitting range, and then we would just we'll practice our swings, and then like with obviously since like my form or like my mom's form is obviously gonna be a lot worse than like my dad's form, he's able to teach us and like do that like moment of him teaching us, like it's just like kind of a nice bonding experience for us. Like it's just it feels nice that you're surrounded with people and people that love you, that know a lot and pretty well educated in categories.
Yeah, what's your dad's handicap?
Yeah. Actually, I feel like with our dad's generation, like I feel like a lot of dads like struggle with being emotionally available, and I feel like golf tends to be a very good way for like people to connect with their fathers. And I don't know if that's true for anybody else.
It's very true.
It's just
Golf.
that should be like my dad taught me.
That's
I mean, my dad
That's
taught
okay.
me golf.
Yeah, he
yeah.
taught me golf like
He
when
taught
I
me
was
golf.
young.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey,
Hey,
it's a loud place, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't play golf either.
I like to go back to what Ryan was talking about in terms of like bonding over work and stuff. So, like my grandpa, for whatever reason, like I think one of his favorite things to do is like home care, lawn care, and fixing up the house and stuff. I think my grandma, my mom once said that he loves the front lawn like it's his own son, like something like that. Like he really cares about this stuff and he puts a lot of effort into it. And a really major way that we bond is doing homework, like homework as in work on the home. But when the storm came by and it knocked over one of our fences and it messed up one of the trees, my grandpa was like, hey, come out, let's go fix this. And we spent the day fixing the fence, stuff like pulling out weeds, picking up acorns in the back, mowing the lawn and trimming stuff. And if some parts of it are like sunburned, you get patches of dead grass. He teaches me sort of how do you replenish that, how do you fix the grass. And I think that even though a lot of this is work and you're under the hot sun and there's mosquitoes and it's not something that's necessarily very comfortable, it's still a major bonding experience because you guys are learning something together, or you're being taught something that your family really cares about and whatnot.
Yeah. Sorry.
Just a couple months ago, like similarly to your story, we had this like fence that we needed to tear down and chop up into pieces, and for some reason there was an axe there, so I decided to join my dad and just try chopping it up, and that ended with like a solid 2 hours of just me, my dad, and my sister sitting there trying to chop up like hard pieces of wood into pieces, and it's not like a traditionally fun task in the slightest, but just doing it with my family, it was fun. It was just. It's something about it, just doing it together. Was a lot of.
Yeah, but as I was saying before, I think like situations like when you kind of like put like in with a family, that like kind of like tough, but not like it's not like a situation that you should be worried about. Like for example, like when the lights go out, like when the power goes out, like it's obviously it's annoying, but it's not like this. It's not like the end of the world. The lights are gonna come back on eventually. But it's like in that moment, like we have to turn on put up candles. And like especially like during the dinner time, like when we're eating around like surrounded in the kind of the dog, but with candles, like I feel like just that kind of environment, along with like you guys like talking to each other, like it's just a very nice sweet bonding moment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. There was another instance where I went all the way up to Maine to pick me up. Like this is when I was in 4th grade when I had sleepaway camp. And like they drove like 7 hours up to Maine. Yeah, they drove up 7 hours to Maine with an old Honda Odyssey. It was basically on the verge of breaking down. I don't know why they didn't drive another car, but basically when they picked me up, in the middle of like driving somewhere in the woods, it just completely broke down. The battery just went. And we had to stay there for the entirety of dinner time. There's no any restaurant out there, Applebee's, Olive Garden. There's no restaurants out there. So we had to eat like Oreo cookies for dinner. But I think that it's definitely more comforting when you have people that you trust and people that you know so well around you, especially during those tough moments. Or not, it wasn't necessarily tough, like Oreos taste good, but just more on those moments where it's definitely a place where you could feel a little bit lonely if you don't have, I guess, people or companions around you. And I definitely think that the presence of my mom, dad, and my brother, and actually my 2 grandparents, because they rode along as well, definitely think having them there, it definitely bonded us together, knowing that we're going to get through this together, even though it wasn't necessarily as tough as other experiences.
Yeah, that Maine drive is rough though. Cause like both my brothers go to school in Maine. And like we have to like drive up in the winter, and my mom will be like, "Oh look, there's a moose crossing. We might see a moose." No, it's snowing. Pay attention to the road, please. It's
To relate to what Ryan said, there was also a time where my family and I were driving up to Maine. We had a flat tire. It's always Maine. It's always Maine. We had a flat tire, and we were stuck on the side of the highway for 4 hours. And it's like literally you could see on Google Maps like the place being turned from like green to like just like red to like signal that there's like a large delay because all the cars were like going around us, and we like but like we had to wait a long time because we needed to put the spare tire on and then drive to like a dealership. We got to Maine at like 2 a.m. because we spent the majority of our day just waiting on the highway. But it's great because you get to spend time with family, and like you get to see how like your other family members react to a problem, like how your parents deal with it, and like what they do to like and the steps they take to take care of like a crisis. It's also like it tests like your teamwork as a family, and then it like improves your bond and allows you to like work together to successfully like overcome this hurdle.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, especially, it's like speaking about flat tile. Like, recently I went.
I was trying to
my family went on a Europe trip, and we went to like London first. And we were planning to take a rent a car and like go down through like the tunnel connecting France and the UK, and then like been to explore all of Europe, or most of Europe. But and like during our travels in London, in fact, it was like during the night when we first got a call, and then like since because in London there's a left side driving, it's like the roads are kind of different, right? Like it's a bit harder to like get used to. And my dad like made a mistake, and he just like hit over like a side, and we just got like the biggest flat. Like it was our tire was completely flat, and like. And we were also in a different country too with a rent a car, so like but to like call like AA, I believe, because it's no in the UK it's AA.
Oh yeah, it's triple A.
Yeah.
Triple A.
But yeah, we went to like call AA, and then like we ended up having to completely butcher all of our like UK plans for that day because just because of that one incident. But at the same time, as James says, like it also kind of created a like new bonding kind of experience. Well, we're able to get to a situation together, and like kind of know that we're in this together and just dealing with it.
Going back to what you were saying earlier about like when the power's off.
Yeah.
So I used to go to India basically every year up until around COVID hit, and then I haven't really been back. But almost every year, without fail, I was only there for like 2 months. The power went out like 4 or 5 times. It was just a staple in how things happened there. And there weren't like generators or anything, backup generators. So if the power went out, you're just sitting in the dark for the next like 4 hours until somehow it turns back on, and you're just sitting there hoping and waiting. And it was kind of a fun experience because I was a young kid, and it's just kind of like scary a little bit in terms of there's no power, but you're there with family, so it's kind of comforting. You get all those candles out, and it's just a fun experience at the end of the day, and something that I know. When I look back on later, even looking back on it now, it's kind of nice just to have spent that time with, especially my extended family, not just my parents, my sister, but also like my grandparents, my aunt, my uncles.
Yeah, when the power's out, it's the best time for my family.
I'd
Because I'd be high in the dark, I'd be lurking, I'd be scaring people. It is not fair.
Oh, speaking of lurking, yeah, so...
I want to segue.
No, hold on. But, look, I was in Bermuda, right? There's a hotel in Bermuda. There's some spiders, right? And they're pretty big. And my mom, I'm not sure if she has arachnophobia, but she does not like spiders at all. So basically, we were in a hotel room, and there was a big, like, tarantula-looking thing blocking the doorway, and all the 4 of us were like, oh man, like we can't get out of this room. We have to leave. And my mom was just like, she was like screaming help. I was like, it's not that deep. But the tarantula was like this big, and we was like, I'm not touching it. But I think that in terms of like, you won't say struggle, but I think my mom. So what we did was we like took turns of like coordinating like a strike team. So you go this way, we're gonna sneak, so it was really fast and it could jump too. So it was like So we used like pillows and like a towel, so like go this way, go, take point A, B, whatever that. But the main thing was that my mom actually was the one that caught the spider and threw it out. So basically, I think that it was like a solid half an hour. And I definitely think that in that moment, like, again, going back to in terms of, like, rewarding experience. Like, the rewarding experience was the spider was thrown out the window. We threw it straight out the window. But it was definitely a moment where my mom felt a lot of relief and because mainly taking care of that spider was for her. And I would think that with me, my dad definitely helped her kind of retain that sense of relief during that moment. I definitely think that was a huge bonding moment in a weird way, just knowing that we coordinated an attack plan for a like giant spider, and the fact that we did it successfully. It was like coordination, cooperation, all of that was in that one half an hour moment. That was definitely one of the prime core moments where I got to bond with my family. I just wanted to make that clear.
And I know we've been talking a lot about bonding with your family over, small problems, big problems. You either get a flat tire and it's a really big deal, or, you're just dealing with lights out for a bit or a tarantula. I
It
think
wasn't as
apart,
special, but it was like big.
big spider, yeah.
Spider.
I think apart from these dealing with these small problems and having these nice moments where you can just bond and be a family and be happy together, we need to recognize that in a certain extent, like there is still a generational gap between us, and this generational gap is it's not something necessarily bad. It's not something that we need to like look down on or like attack. But in a lot of times when we're bonding, we try to bridge it. How do we bridge that generational gap? And particularly, I guess my question is, how do we use sort of culturally common stuff, or at least Asian American stuff, or just American stuff to bridge generational or cultural gaps between our family members.
Actually, that's interesting because like most of you know my mom, right?
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
mom like, like I feel like my mom does a lot of the work in like bridging the gap between us and then her generation. Like I don't find it. Most of us probably don't find it very difficult to like relate with my mom.
Gova's mom is very cool, by the way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
W mom.
Yeah.
Guys, come on.
So like, I wonder like how much like the responsibility falls on the parent or the child to
Oh,
like
yeah.
to like, bridge that.
So I'm gonna go into a pretty deep story here. But I'll definitely answer your question
Okay.
throughout that. I definitely think that there was a moment where I don't know, my grandpa is on my dad's side is he speaks very old, like an old style Cantonese, and that's kind of the only language he spoke. So there was a pretty big language barrier between me and him for the past like couple of years. It's pretty much gone now. Like not like I don't know how to speak Cantonese, but I definitely think that there was moments where we felt disconnected because we didn't properly communicate with each other because my grandma was kind of translating for him, especially when I was younger. But I wanted to point out in terms of the responsibility that as you said, Gobin, like I took on a little bit of that responsibility, but he did as well. It was a kind of a split between my grandpa and I. So one of the examples was, as we mentioned before, mahjong. So when I finally learned how to play mahjong, I don't know why I delayed myself. 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I learned how to play mahjong, right? Very, very fun game. But my grandpa is, I won't say he's addicted to mahjong, but he's like avid, like big enjoyer of mahjong, and he played it until like 4 a.m. in the morning. I'm not even kidding. But he's like we couldn't talk to him. But when I first got introduced to mahjong, I immediately went and said, "This is something my grandpa liked." Right? And the fact that the other time when I went to San Francisco, I played with him mahjong and I played until 4 a.m. in the morning. Like that generational gap you talked about, like the generation, it's not necessarily a generational thing in terms of our language, but there is a big language barrier, and I felt that that broke, especially when I yelled out, "I win," after I got all the tiles in order, or
Yeah.
after he said he doesn't have any teeth, so the pronunciation is a little bit off, but when he said in Chinese, "Oh, I win, you lose, whatever, you suck," whatever. When he said that, when he won, I feel like that language barrier just went poof, and it was gone, right? That was kind of an experience where I felt that I was more connected with my grandpa in that way. And there's another experience as well. In terms of, I guess, me introducing, like, so, and in the NFL, there's the 49ers, right? It's a team based in San Francisco, right? And I think that when my dad was growing up, he was a big fan, especially during when, like, they're in their prime. I wish we could get back there. But when Jerry Rice, Montana, and Steve Young, all of those, the GOATs were playing, my dad was a very, very big fan, and my grandpa was not necessarily he was watching it on the sidelines in terms of, like, not actually on the sidelines, but behind, like, my father when he was a kid, and he kind of got this connection with the 49ers in terms of family, right? And so when I started, I think it was like 5 years ago, when I first started to really watch the 49ers, starting from 2019 where we lost, but when I started watching the 49ers, like, it was also a way for me and my grandpa to connect with each other because, in a way, ignore the language barrier, I was trying to teach him what a first down was. I was trying to teach him what a touchdown extra point was. This guy right here, the running back, George Kittle's doing something really well here. Look at him, he's 85, right? And I definitely think that in terms of connecting with my grandpa, that's just been probably the biggest kind of factor between me and him, just finding that common interest, finding something that we like together, something that crosses in between generations, because even when he was still like a father, not a grandpa, he was watching the 49ers as well. And just those two things, mahjong and supporting the 49ers, that's definitely been something that's connected me with my grandpa. Yeah.
I think on on my end with my grandpa, things in a certain extent are a little bit inverted, right? So a lot of times my grandpa and I and my grandma and I, we bond over things that I guess we both have no idea of, right? So like we both don't know about this. So I guess some example I'd give is seeing new places and seeing new things, right? Like when we go to a place like, Paris, and we both see the Eiffel Tower, where this is something that's both new to us, and we're both sharing this experience of, wow, this is crazy. This is a giant piece of amazing architecture, and we get to see on it. We get to both be in awe for the first time, or seeing stuff like big glaciers, stuff like that, just cool nature stuff. We both don't necessarily have a connection to it already, but through sharing that new experience of seeing a new culture or seeing a new place, we can form a connection from something that we didn't know about before.
Yeah. One thing that with me and my grandfather is just when I used to go to India every year, he always every day on his newspaper there were these like little puzzles and stuff, and he loved doing them. Every day he would do them, finish them like first thing in the morning, 6 a.m. He was up, he'd finish those puzzles already, and then he loved just making me do it and watching me struggle through it. And as much as I kind of got frustrated at the puzzle sometimes, I was like, this is hard, I don't want to do it. It was kind of a nice bonding experience because he would always sit down with me, help me through them. He would help me find the differences between the two pictures or whatever it was that day. And that was one way I bonded with my grandfather especially.
It's funny you say that, because my grandpa was an engineer. And I remember like a couple years ago, so like we would always do like building projects together, and he was showing me how to use a nail gun.
Oh.
So he's like shooting it. He's like, go remember, why isn't the air coming out? I'm like, I don't know now. Did you tell me? And then he put his finger to it. Rookie mistake. Don't do that. Don't do that. He put his finger up to feel the air, and the nail shoots through his finger and his nail. And I try to go running at my mama, and he grabs my wrist, and he's like, don't tell your mother. Don't tell your mother. She'll kill me. So like we went to the bathroom, and he wrapped it up, and I think that experience was like a great bonding experience because we never told my mom.
Well, now she knows.
I think I ended up telling her at some point, but like I think like that little secret that we had of that interesting experience, to say the least, was like a great bonding.
Yeah.
Like a great bonding experience.
I want to share something else about my grandpa too. This was like a couple years ago when I was still like 10 years old. Like before he kind of lost his mobile, like he lost his mobility. Like he can't really walk as good as he can like in the past. But my grandfather was the hardest working individual you will ever meet. And what I mean by that is not only did he work hard in his job, but whatever like thing that required like an engineer or mechanic in the house, he would just do it. Every single thing. So one time when the pipe was about to burst or something like that, he would go up there, climb up some weird thing, and he would just fix it himself, right? So I was with them, and again, as you said, like a secret in terms of like you and your grandpa. My parents knew about this like 2 years before, but the pipe burst all over my grandpa, and it was like a lot of like stuff, like water kind of bursting on him, and he was about to fall. But I was like supporting him in a way where he could like be able to fix the pipe. And by the way, like he's a really hardworking dude. Like no, you won't ask a grandfather. Like he was what 78 at the time. I think, to fix a pipe like that. It's very, very impressive, right? So, but my parents found out like a year after. I said, oh hi, yeah, the pipe broke. It burst when you guys were away shopping for groceries, and my grandpa almost fell off the stairs or whatever it was. But I definitely think that you said like the secret. I definitely think that kind of bonded me and my grandpa in a way as well.
Yeah.
When you brought up the fact that your grandpa, he used to be like more mobile and he could fix his stuff and do this, I think that I guess resonates with me a lot because like my grandpa's like in a similar situation and he like really loves work. Like he just like that's sort of his, I guess, therapy in a sense, like doing work, pulling weeds and working on the lawn and also fixing stuff in the house. But now like with health and just that he's aging and that this is the reality of being old. A lot of times you can't really do a lot of things that you once did, and I think that like I don't know, like you really have to enjoy the time that you have with them because it's not gonna last forever. Like we used to go on long walks, you know, maybe like a 3-mile walk with my
Yeah.
grandpa and grandma, and they were doing just fine. And we could talk and we could walk all the time. Now, you know, we probably couldn't walk up and down the street once.
Yeah.
Like we had difficulty with that. So I think like enjoying the time that you can like fully spend with them in like a more, I guess, like capable manner, like that's I think just really important in, you know, bonding with them.
Yeah, I love that you say that because like same thing for me like my grandfather was like super mobile. He was a soldier, and like he could do everything, literally everything. And I think watching his deterioration from someone who like survived like a landslide where everybody else in his platoon died to someone who needed a walker to get from the couch to the kitchen was probably like the most painful thing for me to watch in real time because like it's like this man who was like super strong, like just like couldn't really do much after my grandmother died as well. He's like I think it's just really hard to watch. So I think like spending time with your grandparents and like realizing that it doesn't last forever is truly like one of the hardest things.
Yeah, I definitely think. Now I'm gonna talk. I talked a lot about my grandparents, but on my mom's side, my grandpa, he loved to play golf. Like he was in the driving range every single day when he was, after he retired, he was there every single day. But again, as you said, like you know, him being a very, very like you said, like as a soldier, and just being someone who kind of deteriorated into someone who you know needs assistive, you know, walking, like a walking tool, like a cane. Like that also happened to my grandpa as well. But there was like we couldn't go and play golf together. That was one of the biggest. I didn't play that much golf with him because you know he lived in Singapore and I didn't really travel to Singapore until like 2 years ago. But that was one of my biggest regrets, and just like I didn't have the chance to play his favorite game and also my favorite game with him. It's like best bonding moment ever, and I missed that opportunity. But you know we did miss going over to Singapore and having fun playing no money related poker. So I think definitely appreciating the moment, or like you know it's very painful to have like an opportunity missed, but I definitely think making the best out of what you have in terms of you know whether your grandpa could walk able or not. I definitely think that like for poker, he enjoyed poker big time, so I definitely think that me spending time with him, me spending that missed time in terms of golf with him, doing poker and doing what he loved, and me winning every single money and him buying in every single time. But I definitely think that is a way that's like how you should live your life in a way. Like even if you have missed opportunities, you always want to make the best of what you have.
Yeah, and you know I think that all of us, we share these experiences and we share these you know different bonding experiences. Going back to a little bit of what we were talking about on our last podcast. And I want to just end with this in the summer because I think you know some people might call it a little corny, but I think it's a good way to sum it up. But Asia's a really big place. There's a lot of different countries, and even though we're all called Asian, you know, in America, we're all Asian Americans. Our families come from very different countries, and they come from places that are very far from each other and very different from each other. Despite that, we're here, and we share a lot of these experiences, and we share experiences about you know. Not like feeling like we haven't had enough time to spend with our grandparents, or you know having you know simple problems with our family that are nice to solve. I guess why do y'all think that despite how we are ethnically different and with the background of Asians being so diverse, that we all feel like a certain sense of unity and you know united as Asian Americans here?
Well, I feel like part of it isn't just specifically to do with us being Asian Americans, just being human. There's so much that we share in terms of experience that there's always something that we can connect through, something that is a shared experience for us. Part of it there is, I feel like, just being human kind of connects us in terms of the experiences that so many people have.
I think sorry, no. You want to hear? Okay. I feel like a big factor that connects like a lot of Asian people in general is like not to follow this stereotype, but genuinely a lot of Asian people are very hardworking and they put in a lot of effort into like studying, maintaining good grades, and doing really well in school. I feel like when there are a group of people that just like try their best to like get the most out of their like education and everything, like they'll eventually just grow closer together. Like of course it's like a lot of Asian people tend to be friends with mostly Asian people, but it's also just like genuinely because they're like they have like the same drive to accomplish like a very similar goal. So then it just like kind of brings them together as a community.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. No, Sid.
You go.
No, Sid. What you said just about being human. I definitely think that being yourself, like in a world where everyone there's a lot of people in the world, but definitely just trying to stay on your path and being yourself. Like even though you'll have eventually different interests and all of that, I definitely think that just about other people in general, you will find certain interests and you'll get closer together no matter what you do. You just gotta. I think the biggest focus is just you need to stay on your own path, and I definitely think that no matter where you go, whether if it's in Asia or in America or New York or California, like you'll see that other people have the same interests as you, even if they're like not AAPI in the AAPI community. Just want to point out, just being human.
Yeah, also kind of adding to the human factor. I also feel like that being like all of us have like immigrant parents, right? So I kind of feel like all of us being immigrants. It allows us to show similar experiences, as I think we've quite discussed clearly, and just because our parents have brought, or grandparents have brought their cultures from Asia or whatever countries, and they're bringing them and they're mixing them in with American culture, and so now that we're kind of all experiencing it, even though yes our cultures are different from each other, we still have a mix of our culture mixed in with American culture, so I kind of feel like that similarity is kind of also what allows us to bond together and like feel a sense of unity and connection.
Yeah, it's like very theoretical. Just kind of towards Sid and Stefan. I've known you guys for yay long. a long time, and I wonder what is it that like originally brought us together as friends? Because I would say I'm friends with you guys now, not because we have like unity in like who we are as people, but like because I've known you for a long time. But what originally do you think brought us together as friends? I don't know, right? Like, Steph, what do you think?
I don't know.
Would it be
Destiny. Destiny.
That's a tough question, but I wonder if it's because like we saw each other's families, in like each other's families. Because like I'm waffling. But like I feel like I remember feeling some kind of kinship with Stefan because our brothers knew each other, our siblings knew each other. So I don't know. That's it's my bad.
I think
No, you have a point actually.
I think like when I met Ryan, like I think in like second grade, yeah. I think part of it is like that the little things can contribute to an understanding, and that understanding contributes to friendship. So like what I mean is like, I know you brought up seeing each other's families. I think that is pretty important because like let's say you see your friend's family, like, and you sort of see that they do things kind of in a similar way, like maybe they eat the similar foods, they talk a similar way. The biggest example that jumps to my mind was the fact that maybe you have a grandparent who is like not super well versed in English, but they're very loving and caring. Like that sort of image to me is like a major sort of bonding, understanding idea. And I think the little details like that can just make you feel like, I mean, this is true with most people just in general, like, oh, we're really not so different from each other. And I think that contributes to like a friendship a lot of the times.
Yeah. Adding on to the other things, I don't know, like a long time ago, I'm not sure if you remember this, but I'm pretty sure you do, but I remember at one point my parents were like opting to sell the house, right?
Oh yeah.
And then Sid's family came in looking to buy our house, and so like it was just like like at the time too, we were also like friends, but I mean I wouldn't consider us like as the closest friends, and just Sid kind of being there, like it just kind of gave me a sense of like a bigger connection towards like him and his family, and like
I mean, I guess what I think about that is like, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how it played out, but like my sort of imagination was that, your parents are there, Sid's parents are there, and you're both just like little kids, and you're like, oh, hey Sid, your parents here too? Yeah, my parents are here.
Yeah.
And it's just something like that, like, yeah, our
No, I don't know.
It's just like, oh, they're both here doing things, and we're just kind of here to watch. What's up? Something like that. Like,
and I remember you were also playing like something on the Switch.
I was playing the Wii.
The Wii, yeah.
I also offered you to play one.
Yeah.
And that was like, yeah, it was just a good time to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely think that, as you said, like family. Like I met my first friends when my mom invited a bunch of parents over, and they all brought their kids over to my house. I like if you feel a sense. You saw I saw my mom, and she was talking to everyone else, and wow, they're a community. They're friends. They have probably similar interests, and they're talking about similar topics that they like or they enjoy. Right? How about us? Like we're part of that community too. If you guys are a community, you guys group me and the other kids together as well. And I think just subconsciously knowing that when I was younger, that was the best way I could make friends. Just knowing that my mom and my mom were like on the same page, and that means we should be on the same page as well. That's kind of been a way I've connected with other people. Like when I was young, that was definitely a very, very big way I just made friends.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, this is, I think, most of what we had to say for our last podcast,
Yes, sir.
our last youth podcast.
Yes, sir.
Just, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for, listening about A and HBI culture, listening about mental health, and listening about what we have to say. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and see ya.
We're running it back, guys.